What's up, everybody? Welcome to StuMo. I'm loving how many people are here for our standers. This shouldn't be too long, so just so you know, we'll go quickly. But I want to just kind of start us out with a question. When is the last time, or what's the last thing that you did that was like the biggest change in your life? Take like 2 seconds. Actually think about that question. What is like the biggest change that you've made in your personal life? What did you do? What's the biggest change? It's kind of a hard question when you ask it, because when we think about that, I'm like, what do I say? So when I thought about this question, kind of pondered on it, my initial thoughts were, man, 8th grade. Apparently other people also thought that. So 8th grade, I changed a lot. So some backstory, in 6th grade, I got the great opportunity to get braces. How many other people had braces in middle school? Yeah, absolutely, great thing. My lower permanent retainer broke like 3 years ago, so I'm sure I'll have to go back to the orthodontist. But I got braces in a week. You know what else I got in that same week? Glasses. Dude, that's how you start 6th grade, right? That's how you really bring it. You're going to make new friends, brand new school. You know a couple people. Dude, get those braces and glasses, tons of confidence. So I'm just walking through the hallways, high-fiving. No, I'm like super weird. I'm socially kind of inept. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like kind of weird. And so I like school, so that's kind of my thing. Big Halo fan. Halo video? Okay, no one. All right, cool. Yeah, aging myself as I say that. So what happened in 8th grade, though, was that I became friends with this guy named Jackson Seibert. None of you know him. But Jackson was a very social guy. Jackson, Patrick O'Sullivan, anybody? No? Still my friends from 8th grade. Patrick O'Sullivan, Jackson Seibert, Mark Brownlee. I just had all these buddies who suddenly liked to do stuff. They were social, they had a good time, they had fun together. And so I started hanging out with them. I started to get around them, spend more time around them. I suddenly became much more social. What else was happening in 8th grade? Puberty, right? The best time of life. And so I'm like growing a bunch. My voice is cracking a ton. But for whatever reason, I am actually confident now because I have friends, right? I have this kind of support group behind me who I like. I enjoy them. I like getting around them. I just became social. Suddenly girls weren't this like far off dream. It was like, dude, I think I could actually maybe talk to her. And really that just meant saying hello in the hallway. But I'm like, hey, I can, that's not game at all. But I was like, I can try to talk to this person. And so I just had confidence I was a different guy. That was a really big change for me in 8th grade. We got some more chairs coming right here just for you guys who are sitting, FYI, as they open the door. I don't want you to be scared by that big tower of chairs. So I was a different person. Another thing that really changed for me, especially in college, when, again, I think about the biggest changes that I've made in my life, was I started looking into faith seriously. That was something I'd never really done before. But in college, my freshman year, I started to just ask a lot of questions. I started to think, man, where am I at with God? What do I think about Christianity? What do I think about religion in general? And I think for a lot of us here in the room, we've asked those questions. This is a great place to ask those questions. Man, where am I at with that? But as I looked into those things and I questioned things and I found answers, man, a ton of things changed in my life. Suddenly my interests changed. Suddenly the things that motivated me, that got me up in the morning, just started to change. I wasn't as excited about the party scene. I just wasn't. I still had a great time. That was me DJing. I don't know if you saw that in the video. That's not like a Photoshop. I was for real DJing the dance party. It was insane. And that's like my 9th year. I'm the dude in the party. I love doing social stuff. And I still did that in college. But my life started to change. My close friends, my relationships, some of those changed, but most of them actually got a lot deeper because we actually shared something in common that was deeper than just ESPN stats that you also watched in the morning that we can kind of share at lunch. Hey, did you see Tom Brady is 17 years older than Jared Goff? I'm like, that's like, I can connect with someone on a deeper level than just knowing stats. And so I started to change. My life was changing. The other thing that changed was just the vision for my life. So I came into college very excited for life, very excited to do medicine, right? I went into college. I was bio pre-med in Spanish. I was like a very aggressive student. I was excited for that stuff. Maybe you guys have people like that in your class. Everyone's like, oh yeah, weirdo. And so I loved that thing. And so I came into college, made this decision to trust Christ. Suddenly, that didn't feel like it was what I was supposed to do anymore. Obviously, I'm standing here in front of you guys today, 5 years out of college? No, 7 years out of college, blast from the past. And I'm not in medicine, right? I'm not wearing my lab coat. I'm not a doctor. I ended up doing ministry. That was something that was never really in my plans. But God changed them as a result of really just my life changing in general. And so when we look at this and we look at this idea, this concept of change, why I thought about this stuff, New Year, right? New Year's resolutions, New Year, New Me. Hashtag New Year, New Me. Let's do this. I'm going to lose that weight. I'm going to get that stronger way. I'm going to do this, or I'm going to talk to that girl, or I'm going to... Do you guys know how long most New Year's resolutions last? On average. This is actually something I researched, so I'm not just making it up. Any guesses? Valentine's Day, good guess. Up to Valentine's Day? 2 weeks. 4 weeks is actually the answer. They last about 1 month, which is crazy, and everyone's looking at themselves like, dang, I've only got 6 more days and I can be done. On average, they only last a month, which is crazy. It only lasts 4 weeks. But when we think about making any sort of change in our lives, and not in the change of right now where you guys don't know where your classes are, that was a change you made because that's how semesters work. You get new classes, you go new places. I'm talking about change that's personal and intentional. And change like that does not happen by accident. Right? That type of change, if you can think about that big change in your life, maybe you've had a couple, man, that didn't happen on accident. There was a reason behind it. There was motivation behind it. I didn't accidentally become social in 8th grade. I didn't accidentally wake up and was like, man, I'm friends with these guys, and now I can talk to people. It was a 2-year process of getting over being the kind of weird guy with braces and glasses who was redheaded and no one else was. And why did I have a flat top? I don't know. That's just what was my haircut. Why would I not have a flat top? Mom and Dad set me up for failure in that. That's okay. But also, I didn't accidentally make a decision to follow Christ. I didn't accidentally start looking into faith. There was a reason behind it. There was kind of something in my heart or my soul, whatever you want to describe that, where I just had questions. And I was like, man, where am I at with this stuff? I just don't have peace. I can think about times when I was in high school especially that I just couldn't sleep very well. I was a pretty natural sleeper in general. I would sleep from, 2 a.m. to 12 p.m. And so I would sleep normally. But there were some nights where, man, I just couldn't. And there was just kind of something in my mind that I couldn't reconcile. I didn't know what was off. I didn't know what was wrong. I was a good kid, naturally. I just did okay on things. I wasn't some huge rebel. But there was just something in my heart that wasn't matching up, and I didn't know what it was. When I came to college, I kind of heard about who God was, who Jesus was, that he was this guy who came down to earth 2,000 years ago. Because of me, he came down actually for me and for you. He came down, he died on a cross. But what's so crazy, before he died, he lived a sinless life, meaning that he had never done anything wrong. Where if we were to take a list of what we've done wrong in this room, it would take forever. We've all made mistakes. We've all had issues in our lives. So Jesus lives a sinless life, dies on the cross, so that we can know God in relationship. I'd always viewed God as this faraway guy who would just cross his arms every time I made a mistake and kind of put his nose up at me. I just thought of him as a judgmental, kind of weird old man. That was literally how I viewed God, was just this faraway thing that judged me anytime that I made a mistake. So any mistakes I made, I wanted to cover up. I didn't want to tell anybody about what I was struggling with or what I was dealing with in my life, because I viewed God kind of in that same light. So I kind of thought everyone thought that way, that they would all judge me for the struggles that I have. When I found out that God actually wasn't judging me at all, God loved me. He cared for me. He wanted to know me in a relationship. It wasn't just to be good. It wasn't, again, growing up in Oklahoma, that's kind of how I thought. You just kind of are a good person. You go to church on Sunday and you're just good. But I found out there's actually way more to it. The relationship with God's way more of an adventure than just doing a thing on a Sunday or coming to a StuMo night on a Wednesday. There's a lot more to it, and it was awesome. Making that decision changed my life forever, easily. The biggest change I've ever had in my life, and I'm so grateful that I made that decision. I mean, even being here, my wife, who I married, which I don't know if Megan's, she's in the back. That probably wouldn't have married Megan had I not made that decision, right? If we hadn't shared that in common, I don't know if we'd even met each other. She would have even considered me this redheaded flat, I'm just kidding, I wasn't wearing a flat top anymore. But this guy who was 4 years younger, and I'm like, dude, holla at your boy, I got her, it's awesome, I love that. Cougar hunter for life. And so I married my wife. How we parent our son, Jacob, the small boy that you've seen running around with a Batman beanie. who usually talks about Spider-Man. We're not as into Batman anymore. And so, but how we parent him, how we love him, what we do at night and pray with him every night. Dude, I would never do that stuff. That's not how I grew up. That's not what was around me in my home. And so how that has all changed as a result of God. But you can't change by accident. They don't just happen. They take time. They take ultimately a choice. And so change requires a choice. We got to remember that as well. We're going to check out one verse in the book of Ephesians that talks about this. It says this: you were taught with regard to your former way of life. So this is this guy named Paul writing, saying you were taught with regard to your former way of life. So these people were living one way, and then they were wanting to try to live for God. And so he's like, okay, in regards to that, to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires. So to put off your old self. I love that phrasing. I love what that says, because to me it's very visual, where I'm thinking, okay, who was I as a person before I made this decision, before I even cared about God? Okay, so I'm going to take that guy and shed him, which kind of reminds me of locusts and stuff over the summer, where you always see those cicada things where their backs ripped open and there's new, and you know what I'm talking about? I'm the new locust, right? That's me. And I'm like, okay, so the old thing is gone. I'm putting my old self away, and I want to follow God now. So what Paul's writing is to put off the old self. It's letting go, essentially. That's a great way to think about it too. It's just to let go of old habits, to let go of old ways of thinking, of old hurts, of maybe old patterns of how you did things for however long you've been alive. Because I was really good at not following God for 18 years before I made a decision to trust Christ. And so I had 18 years built up of doing things my way, doing things that were to my benefit exclusively, and thinking of people in a way that just wasn't good. I didn't view women correctly. I didn't view others as anything as something that would get me from A to B, which is a horrible way to live. But that's who I was before I knew God. He changed my life, and it's awesome. So what we want to be aware of is that change ultimately as well, it takes a choice for change to happen. But the other reality is that change requires loss. Does that make sense? Change requires loss. So if you were going to make a decision to change in any way, right? If you were today to say, hey, I want to run a mile in X amount of time, you are going to have to change how you spend your time. There's going to be loss of something. You're going to give up that new show that you wanted to binge. You're going to give up that extra 30 minutes of Instagram that you love, but you're giving it up for something in return. You're getting something in return every time. But change requires loss. So when we choose something, we're letting go of something else. I think about a trapeze artist, right? Any of those okay, no? Super relatable stories. So trapeze artists, we know who those people are. It's Batman's family, right? And so they go and they let go. It's actually Robin's family, my bad. And so they're going, they hold the trapeze, they go, and then they have to let go to get the next grab, right? They're in this insanely tall sky situation. If they fall, they die. There's usually a net, but you think they're going to die. And so I think of a trapeze artist where we want to let go of something. When change is happening, you have to be willing to let go. There's loss associated with change. So maybe some of us in the room are on our trapeze and we've got the next one coming and we're holding on and we're like, man, I really want to follow God. I care about this some, but dude, I really like my old life. I kind of like where I'm at. I enjoy what I'm doing. So what ends up happening is we'll take one hand off, and so we leave this one here, and then we grab the other one, and instead of moving forward, what we're doing is just stagnating. We're just sitting in between two spots. We're not really headed any direction. We're not going forward. We're not going backward. We're just sitting there like this, hoping that something's going to change. Something else, some external factor will make us change. When really this is our decision as we look into faith, as we look into God. And that's what StuMo's about. If you guys are new, I'm so glad you're here. StuMo is a group on campus to try to help anyone, whether you have zero background with God or a ton, to help you develop in that relationship. And if you've made that decision to make that relationship real, that's awesome. And if you haven't, that's also awesome. I'm glad you're here. You've made a great decision to be here. But we'll sit in this limbo of man, I kind of want to do this, or I'm just not sure if I want to, or maybe you've made that decision to follow God and you're moving forward in the relationship, but man, there's this one area of my life that I just don't want to let go of, right? Maybe there's this one spot of, dude, maybe it's the party scene. Maybe it's this relationship that you're in. I can't speak to what you guys are dealing with, But I know we've all got stuff in our lives where we're kind of in this in-between spot of what are we going to do? Are we going to let go? Are we going to continue forward? Or are we just going to sit in the middle and kind of stagnate and sit there? Because change requires loss. So as we evaluate, man, how do I want to be different this semester? What is 2019 going to look like for me? On the spiritual side of things, what I'd encourage you guys to think about is how do you want to change? What needs to be different for you? You guys are the most expert people on yourself. You know what's going on in your life. You know what you come from. You know your background. You know exactly where you're from and why you are the way you are. And so evaluating, man, how do I do this? How do I kind of let go of the old self? And the way to let go of the old self is you got to pay a fee. I'm just kidding. It's not that. But it's going to roll with what we're talking about. So how do I go over the old self? Forgive. That's the first piece. If you want to let go of your old self, man, the same forgiveness that we are being extended by God through Christ, you need to extend to somebody else. If you have pain, if you have bitterness, if you have hurt from someone or some way that you grew up, I'm not going to deny the pain that you went through. I will never say, man, that's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal. It defines you. It has absolutely shaped you into the person that you are. But man, we got to extend forgiveness. We got to let things go. And so looking at letting go of our old selves, man, it's forgiving other people. It's getting those people who are maybe hurting us or hurting our lives or hurting where we're headed and letting them go. So that's the F. The E is to evaluate externally. So to evaluate externally, meaning look at who's closest to you. Look at the people you're kind of surrounded with. Look at who your closest friends are. Look at how you spend your time. And evaluate, man, is this pushing me towards who I want to be? Is this pushing me towards the person that I'm looking to be, the person who I'm wanting to change into? And if it's not, maybe it's time to make some changes. Maybe it's time to let go of some of those relationships. Again, I know that's a difficult thing to say. I'm not saying that in any sort of light way, to say that, man, maybe some relationships you're in, you should let go of. But that's for your health and that's for your benefit ultimately. Because for myself, if I were someone who's like, man, I'm just not a big druggie. I don't really like drugs, but all of my closest friends were drug dealers. Would that be an easy life to live? No, dude, that'd be so hard. That'd be so difficult. And so same for us, where it's like, man, I want to try to follow God, but no one around me even cares. Man, that's a hard spot to be, and that's difficult. Maybe there are some relationships you can start here in StuMo, people you can meet, friends you can make, who we're all looking to try to find God in a different way here. And so make friends. That's why we do that question at the beginning of every single StuMo, is we'll ask a question, man, meet somebody new. And you'll find someone who maybe you have a lot in common with, and maybe you guys become closer friends, you connect. It's awesome. That's a great way. Some of the best, not some of, only my best friends, all of my best friends are people who I can talk to about faith and talk to about God, because that's such an important thing in my life. I want to be able to have that conversation with them and not feel like I have to protect it or hide it from them, because if they hear, they might judge me. Man, that's not a way to live. That's a hard way to try to follow God. So evaluate externally. Can anyone guess the next E? Evaluate internally. I know, it was so natural that it would be evaluate internally again. So yeah, it's to evaluate internally. So checking yourself out. What are areas in my life that I'm clinging to, or areas in my life that I'm holding on to, or that I won't let go of, right? If it is the party scene, if it is this one relationship, if it is family background, whatever, what are areas that I'm like, when I hear about it, I get defensive? And evaluate that. I'm not asking you to share that or be open with that right now, but what are areas in your life that you're clinging to and you're like, man, why am I doing that? I don't know. But evaluate that inwardly, because letting go of those things, putting off the old self, that change, again, does not happen on accident. Change does not happen on accident. So if you are wanting to change, if 2019 is a new year for you, if you want to do something differently, especially in regards to faith, which is awesome, that's the best way, in my opinion, the best spot to start is growing in your faith, then, man, do these 3 steps to forgive. Forgive other people, and maybe you need to forgive yourself for things that have happened. Letting those things go, not defining yourself in things that have happened in the past. Evaluating externally, man, who's around me, and evaluating internally. Where am I at with this? What's holding me back from doing this? And so as we kind of wrap up, application is to pay the fee and try that. Try that this next week to evaluate. Okay, where am I at with this stuff? Do I care about God? Do I care about these things? Is it really just the crazy Carls? Hey, that's okay if that's why you come to StuMo. That's why we do it. I know the way to your heart's through your stomach. That's why we do this. It's awesome. I'm the same way. I only had 2 pieces, which was a big win for me. New year, new me. And so if you're new to this, right, if you're new to faith in general, keep coming back. Please keep coming back, because we have a good time. Again, when we're outside in the cold, I love that the cold kind of brought everyone even closer. Usually we're kind of spread out, but because it was cold, it was like getting to the pizza was like penguin marching. I love that. I love meeting new people that way, bumping into friends. It's awesome. But keep coming back. Another thing that we'll be doing these next 3 weeks, starting tomorrow, which Alex will give more detail on this, but we're going to be doing a big Bible study. And so if you want to do more of like a small group discussion, the groups will be pretty little, and you can talk and ask questions, man, come to that. We're going to start that tomorrow at 5:15, but be a part of it. It's co-ed. Anyone's welcome. It's an awesome time to come and be a part of that. If you have been looking into God and you like it and you're into it, but you haven't made that decision yet to make that decision to go all in, right, to trust Christ, to have this concept of faith, man, maybe you need to make that decision. Maybe in this evaluation with the fee, you're like, dude, really all I need to do is accept this gift and say, man, I want to do this. I want to follow God. Maybe that's what you need to do. And lastly, if you have made that decision, evaluating in your internal life right now, what are areas that I'm not giving up? What are areas that I'm still clinging to the old self? And letting go of that stuff and asking for accountability in that, asking for help with that, so you can continue to grow. Another way to continue to grow, and just an application from this, is just to consider coming to this big summer project that we're doing this summer in San Diego called Coye. Alex is going to give way more details, but maybe that's something to consider. Consider applying, checking it out, talking about it. It's an awesome way to develop in your faith. And so you can't change by accident, right? That's something that's never passive. No one wakes up and is like, oh, I lost 100 pounds overnight. I mean, I have. But like, how did that happen? I have no idea. I'm suddenly a cross-country runner, but I've never run in my life. I'm like, nothing that never happens, right? That takes time. It takes effort. And so for us, we have to put effort in, right? Effort in is going to be way more awesome. And the payout will be so much better when we put in the effort. And in our, instant gratification society and our culture, that can be really difficult. We just want the final product, right? We want the Instagram shot and be like, dude, I did it. I made it. This is me. When in reality, people need to see the process. You guys are in the process right now, wherever you're at with faith, wherever you're at with God. You're in the process, and that's awesome. Whether you're at the very beginning of it, you're in the middle of it, that's amazing. And so looking at that and recognizing that you can't change by accident, and that change requires choice. And so evaluating, what choices do I need to make this semester? Can spring 2019 be a new semester for me in regards to God, in regards to faith? What choices do I need to make going through the fee? And who would I need to forgive? Again, including myself. And then evaluating externally and internally. And so let's make spring 2019, this semester, a time in our lives where we made that choice, where we made that change for God. And I think at the end of the semester, at the end of our lives, we're going to look back and be like, dude, that was worth it. That was awesome. I'm so glad I made that choice when I did. I'm so glad that I let go of that bad habit when I did. I'm so glad that I wasn't living for this identity that was wrong. I learned that God loves me regardless of who I am. And because of that, man, I can have confidence. I can have peace. I can have joy in my life regardless of where I am. Again, we're all in college for 4 to 5 years, and then we're all over the place. And so living a life that's worth it, that you invest your life in this relationship with God, and what's so sick is that relationship never ends. It keeps going. Man, we get to spend eternity with him if we've made that decision. So let's look at 2019 this semester as the time to make that choice. Let's do that together. Let's hold each other accountable. Let's do this. Let's continue to grow this community. Again, the fact that we don't have enough chairs is like unreal to me. It's awesome. I'm loving it. We'll make sure we have a better room next week. Keep bringing your friends. We'll make sure we have enough chairs. We will buy more of Crazy Carl's. We'll do it. And so if you have any good ideas, let me know. If you want different food, we might do Chick-fil-A one week. I don't know if people like Chick-fil-A. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's the best. Have you guys heard of that? I think it's called Chick-fil-A. Yeah. We'll do it. We'll get it. And so we're going to keep growing this. Alex will come up with some stuff in a second. But I'm going to pray for us real quick, wrap us up, and Alex will close us with some announcements. Lord God, we just come to you right now to thank you so much for today. Lord, thank you so much for this group of people who want to look into you. Lord God, I pray that you would help us just be those people. I pray that you would help us be people who make change, who make the choices that we need to make, Lord. I pray that you would give us the wisdom and how to do that well. I pray that you would help this community just grow closer. Lord God, I pray people would connect with each other, get to know each other. And Lord, that you would really make 2019 a year that we made a decision to change for you. In your son's name we pray. Amen.